explaining the somewhat controversial definition of grooming and then flipping it on his head because we all know that Dream isn't a groomer. He disproved it.
The video communicates the Dream situation is like, hey, Dream proved it was wrong, but I still think he's a groomer.
I remember a lot of people rightfully kind of getting on my ass for was where I said, like, if it was a conversation with a minor, then it would be a problem. Because the reason I said that.
Are you saying that you think that people overreacted to your criticism of Dream because it came after the Dinky Jabot situation?
Yes.
It seemed like you wanted there to be a problem so that you could kind of stand morally virtuous over the problem. Hello?
All right, I can hear you now.
All right, very good. Okay, sorry. So, what's up?
It's all good.
I saw you doing a lot of. I saw you talk to Tom. I didn't watch anything. I was on vacation last week, so.
Don't worry about it.
But I saw you in the chat, and you wanted to chat. So, yeah, what's going on?
I'm trying to make the rounds and talk to people. That's pretty much it. Just get outside perspectives and stuff. Like I've watched, I think just about every video I can find about me from small to big creators, all of them, just to get all the criticism. But a lot of it is hard to watch, obviously, because
Yeah, I get that. I've been there before. Sure, yeah.
I feel like I'll get better criticism just from talking to people.
Okay. I feel you. All right. Well, the first thing I'd say is try not to worry too much about everybody's specific opinion,
No, I know. But if I listen to everybody, then I can actually get all the good stuff. Because if it's truly good criticism, then everybody will say it pretty much.
I suppose that's true. What is the response? Well, how have you talked to so far?
Publicly, I've talked to. I think the only live stream I've been on is Turkey Tom Dark. But I made an interview that has yet to come out with this guy called FPS Diesel.
Okay, yeah, I know of him.
Yeah, he did an interview with me. I talked to this other guy the other day, and that interview will come out sooner. He's a smaller creator. I don't want to put him on blast, but
YouTubers with too much money.
I'm just trying to talk to as many people as possible because, like, last time we talked, I was on my high horse.
Yeah.
And I was pretty confident, but I've learned a lot since then.
Well, that's good. I know it takes a while to come to a change. What are some of the criticisms been that you've that of note?
I mean, I was actually gonna let you kind of dictate that, like what your criticisms for me, but like obviously research, like that's the biggest thing.
I guess so. I think, let's see, because I had there's two kind of major, because I wasn't really aware of the whole, what was it, the girl, there's like the famous girl controversy. I wasn't like super aware
Blake
of
Lively, that's not okay.
Yeah,
so that
yeah,
one,
yeah,
we can talk about that if you want, but that's not really a problem.
Yeah, well, I remember seeing you say something like, hey, I got it wrong, so did everybody else. It's not really a big deal. It's not even your fault. I think you said something along those lines. So I would say that's probably,
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That's probably not good.
Well, I agree with you, but turns out that video was also kind of wrong, and it was before all of this had happened. Basically, Blake Lively is actually probably the liar and the schemer. So
okay, all right, I want to stay out of it because I don't know anything about the entire thing.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Basically, I again was still on like this idea that, I mean, I do truly believe that like there is a smear campaign going on there, but I don't know who's doing
because it feels like
in
general.
All right.
So I guess the two big things then to believe that I'm up to date, or even sometimes sensationalize or conjure up, and then also very inflated narratives about people based off of very little information. Like specifically the Dream thing, you seem to be pretty active about pushing the grooming narrative, despite the fact that he very clearly didn't groom anybody. You even showed.
We can talk about that if you want.
Yeah, he even showed that like he didn't.
Yeah. So in that video, well, and in a lot of my videos, I'm not gonna put you through watching them, but basically, and people are advising me to kind of step away from this for a while. Is that I build a narrative where I like flipping things, right? Like I'll build it up. This all points to this, but this, right? In the Dream video, it was explaining the somewhat controversial definition of grooming and then flipping it on his head because we all know that Dream isn't a groomer. He disproved it. Right? And I said that in the video like three separate times, but I understand now why that was a bad thing to do.
It wasn't really so the way that the video communicates the Dream situation is like, hey, Dream proved grooming was wrong, but I still think he's a groomer. That's the heavy insinuation.
Right. I rewatched it so many times, specifically through watching people react to it. And I think that narrative was blown out of proportion, in my opinion. Like, you'll never catch me trying to defend the Denki Jabba situation. That's not where I'm at. But with the Dream thing, I do think it was blown out of proportion simply because of when it was released.
Are you saying that you think that people overreacted to your criticism of Dream because it came after the Denki Jabba situation?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, there might be some people, obviously, in my opinion, I don't think that I really succumb to those things. I'd say that the Dream thing made me more frustrated than anything else because it was a very heavy insinuation that he was some kind of a predator or a groomer. I haven't seen the video in a while, so I'd have to like rewatch it if we.
No, don't worry about it.
But like that video was pretty rough. There was a pretty heavy insinuation that you thought that like he was still some kind of a predator or something.
I can explain to you what my actual problem with Dream is if you want.
Sure, yeah. Also, at some point, Ryan Beard wants to come in and chat a little bit.
I'm actually a big fan, so yeah. I don't know.
Just letting you know. So yeah, we'll get our little conversation out, and then I'll pull him in there. And then he said he wants to give you advice and stuff. So I don't think it's going to be anything negative.
No. I don't. I deserve negative stuff as well, so it's okay. With Dream, my main issue, and like I've done this a lot, where I say what my biggest issues are at like the back end of the video. It's worked for me. I like doing it, but I feel like that was a lot of the issue because what I wanted to do with the Dream video is like talk about his past, right? All of these things that were controversial, but either ended up being completely untrue or not, right? And I say a lot of stupid shit. Let's get that right out of the way, okay? I'm not the smartest guy. I say some dumb shit. It happens. Like specifically the statement that I remember a lot of people rightfully kind of getting on my ass for was where I said like if it was a conversation with a minor, then it would be a problem. Because the reason I said that is because like in my head I was saying it wasn't a minor, you know what I mean? But then obviously the way I said it in that video and in the context, it kind of came off as like I want it to be, which I want to put on record. I did not want it to be.
Do you think that people are going to be very skeptical of that because when it came to the Denki situation, you seem to you sensationalized that as well, and it seemed
Absolutely,
you seemed like you wanted there to be a problem so that you could kind of stand morally virtuous over the problem.
I can definitely see that, yeah.
Because that's kind of the feeling that I get out of the situation. Is that like you kind of want there to be an issue with some of these people, even though there really isn't. Dream is just kind of an annoying, whinging fuck.
Yeah.
He's not a predator.
My main issue with Dream now is specifically his statements during his live stream, most importantly, the one where he was like, these kids told me to treat them as adults, so we did.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Right? Which I took as probably what Tommy was saying was justified through that statement, but I talked about that after I talked about Tommy, so it came off as I was like kissing up to Tommy, which I definitely see now. I just thought it was like I described things very backwards in that video, which was a mistake on my part. But like, yeah, I agree with you. Like I say I hate Dream in that video, but the reason I actually did that was to like be able to flip things on its head, specifically the grooming thing. So, because if I say I hate a guy, but then I say he's not a groomer, people are going to be more inclined to believe that. But it then came off as I just hate him.
Okay. Sorry, really quick. So to the treat kids like adults thing, from what I remember of the context, it seemed more like these were like 17-year-olds in a Discord with like 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And they were like, hey,
and you're definitely right about that.
I don't think it was like, oh, treat me like an adult in a way that does kind of insinuate grooming from the interpretation that you gave us.
No,
I think it was.
I don't think it's grooming either.
No, that's just. I think that's what people interpreted
Yeah,
your
I
opinion
agree.
as. Where I said what I
Yeah.
really think it is like 17-year-olds like, hey, like just treat me like I'm like one of you guys that are basically 19. Like it's
Yeah.
really not.
But
I don't think
you
that
can
there was anything
agree.
predatory there, because again,
Yeah,
in
but
that
you can agree that in the
conversation,
context. Sorry, go ahead.
well, because like Dream, it's not like Dream 26 was in the conversation with them. They were all being like
No.
stupid little fucks.
I think he was like 20 at his oldest. Yeah.
Yeah, they were sending each like what were they doing? The people were sending each other like weird
Porn.
fan
Yeah.
edits. There were fan
Yeah.
edits of like some of that was like weird porn shit. So like there was nothing
Yeah, basically.
malicious going on. It was just bizarre shit.
Yeah, but I still think in the context of like, yeah, these people are sending porn to kids, but they told us to treat us like adults is still a weird thing to say. That was my like
I
coming out of it. That's
guess.
my biggest
Well, within the
issue.
context, it just seems kind of like normal to me because like, hey, there's 17-year-olds interacting like that are friends with 19. Because again, they're all creators. So like 17-year-old creators are hanging out in a Discord with 18 and 19-year-old creators, and they're sending
I'm
each other
pretty sure
pictures, and it's like,
Tubbo and Tommy were 16, but still not that big of a gap.
yeah, sure. Was Tommy in the Discord talking about that? I don't think Tommy was part of that specific
know. I don't
conversation.
think
The
so yet.
specific
Yeah.
conversation was like a few creators that were all within the similar age range were showing weird fan edits of each other to each other and laughing about it. Like that's what the context was. And when they were like, yo, just treat me like I'm one of you guys, that seemed to be the context where it's like, it's like super police yourself around me because I want you guys to treat me as an equal. Not like, hey,
Sure, yeah.
Act like I'm a grown
and
adult.
I
and
get
rape me,
that.
you know.
I still have a problem with it personally because I do draw the line at like the age of consent.
I guess
I don't, if I'm going to draw a line, I have to draw it. And I still have a problem. He's not a predator for this. It's just irresponsible.
I mean, he wasn't part of the conversation. It was just a creator Discord, and then a couple of creators were being stupid. That should have never happened. But like, I mean, if they're all within the same age range, then even the age of consent conversation is like, okay, if they're 17 and 19, they could consensually do something anyway. So what does it really matter? I mean, again, they're showing each other weird fan edits, and some of them happen to be like pornography edits, and they're like, they're not jerking off in the Discord. They're being weird. They're just being like, they're really just being stupid.
Exactly. It's stupid and irresponsible, and that's kind of like my biggest issue, really.
I guess, like, what would you... I mean, I just don't know what, like, the punishment, because, like, I don't even think Dream knew about it. What would you want to...
Well, I think Dream... Well, it was his Discord, and he... Yeah. I'm pretty sure he did know about it, like, because that's why he talked about how Tubbo said those things.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, the punishment... There's no punishment now. But, like, it's still an irresponsible thing to do, and I think that people should know about that, basically, that is an irresponsible thing to do.
I guess. I mean, what do you think Dream should have done about it? Like, if he had heard about it, or when he heard about it? Like,
I think he should have at least tried to put a stop to it, or at least, like...
Do we know that he didn't?
What is the word? I think he said that he eventually did, but it was, like, 2 years in.
Okay. Yeah, I think that the proper thing, he should have been like, hey guys, don't do that. It's just like, it's not worth...
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think it needed to be public or anything crazy needed to happen out of it.
Sure.
You know, I don't think it's like a huge deal. It's not ideal, but you know, on the scale of things, like I don't think anybody was trying to harm anybody else. It was just kind of stupid. I don't think so. It was just kind of like a stupid thing. Yeah. The kissing up to Tommy thing. Yeah. I think that there was a moment where Tommy made the claim that Dream like took advantage of him or something. The whole thing, there seems to be an over-validation of Tommy's perspective on this whole topic, despite the fact that he seems kind of full of himself, talking about how the Dream SMP wouldn't be anything without him, despite the fact that the Dream SMP wouldn't be anything without all of the creators collectively together. Yeah, there's probably some private grievances, but it also seems like Tommy was talking a ton of shit about Dream behind his back, and like Dream showed screenshots of that in his video.
Oh yeah.
So Tommy seems to be kind of like a asshole kid that
for sure
is entitled to full of himself. Sure, but like also that kids can be dickheads, and he seems to be a dickhead that's full of himself.
That's like the point, right?
Yeah, he just seems to be full of himself. He got rich and famous when he was young, and he thinks that he deserves that. And so Tommy just seems to be kind of a prick. And Dream seems to be like a sensitive bitch. Right? That's like the two things that are happening here at the same time, you know?
Okay. Yeah, I can see that opinion. Originally, the reason I took him with more credibility was, like I said, specifically with that statement of like, they asked us to treat them like adults. So then that for some, outlying reason made it seem like Tommy might be telling more of a truth. But again, I structured the video in an incorrect way with that specific statement. I should have actually just said that in the video, obviously. And that's a lot of my issue, honestly, is that I just like forget to say things sometimes. And then I also in editing forget I wanted to say them. But basically now, after watching people react to my video, I go and I watch Tommy's response again, and I realize that, yeah, he's using a lot of bias and he's using a lot of hyperbole, and he's saying, you know, the Dream SMP was built off the back of him streaming every day, which we know is bullshit. Like he was a big part of it, sure, one of like the leading members, but so were many other people.
You know, that was like the whole point of the whole thing, was to like leech cloud off of each other, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Which is
say,
fine.
yeah, no, right. It's just that he seems to be very full of himself. I would just say it seems like, and a lot of people do the same thing, but you have like a particular thought or a narrative about a particular person in the video, so you kind of take anything against that person as a fact, and that seemed to be like the core problem there more than anything else.
Yeah, that's good criticism that I've gotten. I agree with it.
Yeah, I would say that's like the number one thing. And then like well, that would be like number two. And then like also, again, it did seem to be a lot of there did seem to be a lot of moments where, again, there was a communication that Dream was still some kind of like a predator groomer. I think you should be very careful with very serious allegations. The Denki Jabot thing was another instance, a very serious allegation of this person being adjacent to some kind of abuse. I wouldn't say stop making content like other people have told you.
I know.
I would maybe take a break away from some things might not be worth talking about if you don't feel super confident about it for right now. That would be my
sure. No, I mean, I've made a couple videos since then, and they're all pretty tame, honestly.
Yeah, and like I know that there might be like a view differential, but it's temporary.
I deserve it. It's fine.
It's a temporary thing, and sometimes you have to take a deep breath and just kind of move through it. You obviously should continue to post through it, even if views go down, because like that's just the ebb and flow of content creation. And it's going to be temporary. Like give it a month or so. And sometimes the reason why people might not be engaging as much is because there might be some hateful people in your audience that really like it when you do some wild shit like that, and they may not resonate with your content as much, but that's okay, because you'll get new people who are more mature and more level-headed. It's the better way to operate in general.
Okay. I appreciate that. I'm not looking for it to go away, if that makes any sense. Like I feel like I deserve this on many levels, so it's totally fine with me, you know?
Yeah, it's like a learning experience. Everybody's had their shit. Like I've been there too. It's not you don't have to end your career over it.
How long have you been a content creator?
I started making content on TikTok at the beginning of 2020. And so I've been like financially viable since the end of 2020.
Wow.
Yeah. So
yeah, I just started like a year ago. So
yeah, you know, the what happens to I think every creator is that you get really big. Well, not every creator, but you'll get really big and you won't get any criticism for a long time. So you don't get any feedback. And then one day you get a rush of criticism from everybody. And it feels like the whole world is crashing because you're like, what happened? I haven't changed what I've been saying. Why am I getting all this negative attention now? You basically get to a point where you're big enough for people to feel like they can monetize criticizing you, which is everybody's always going to have, you know, that's your content too. You can monetize criticizing some people. That's my content as well. Doesn't mean that your content's disingenuous, but that's part of it. And now you've hit that point, so people are watching you more. So it's nothing that's changed about you. It's just now people are watching you. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It gives you feedback. So it's just kind of what happens to everybody. So I wouldn't get super distressed over it. I would try to, all of it's always going to be most of the criticism you're going to get every time you make a mistake is going to be disproportionate. You just have to try to find the actual criticism in like the sea of disproportionate criticism.
Exactly.
Because it's the internet.
Like, though Tom was an ass to me and I deserved it, I still saw him as one of the people who was actually giving me real criticism. That's why I sought out a conversation with him first. Right? Like, I'm not going to say I take criticism well, because this is my first experience with internet criticism, but I do appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry, I'm listening. I'm just coughing a little bit. No, it's good to try to just like parse through it too. And like, you know, I agree with what you're saying. Sorry, I'm just coughing. I'm sick, so.
Don't worry, man. Hope you get better.
Yeah, thank you. Do you want me to pull Ryan Beard in here? He wanted to have a chat too.
Do you have any other questions for me?
No, I mean, I don't think that there's, I think, not really.
Okay.
I think it's more, I think, you're going to learn what you're going to learn. There's nothing I can really tell you, but, you want me to pull Ryan in here?
Sounds good.
Let me pull him in here.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. That's much better.
This is better?
Yeah, it's a little echoey, but it's fine. It's not like horrible.
Sorry, I'm just using my headphones now. Yeah, I guess I was using like a shotgun mic that I used to record my videos, but I guess maybe it's just not meant for Discord. Who knows?
Interesting. All right. Yeah, yeah, you want to talk to Lewis, so I'm going to pretty much stay quiet unless I have something to say.
All right.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say I see myself in you, Lewis. You're a theater guy, right?
It's complicated, but that's sure.
Yeah, well, yeah, like I did theater when I was younger, and I don't know, a lot of the things that you've gone through kind of remind me of when I started making content.
Yeah.
And I think definitely when I first started making videos, there's this pull to want to like find a person and then kind of construct like a narrative around them of like, okay, here's the person I'm talking about today. I'm going to figure out like all the bad things that they've done and then try to like just put it all together and then, put out this video. And I think what you're running into is like definitely hyperbolic language is a problem, saying like, oh, this person's like a weird freak. If you say that about like most people that you criticize, it's not leading to having any like proportionality where you say like, okay, this person is better or worse than that person. I feel like my number one thing I would say for you is like think about proportionality. Like think about is the person that I'm criticizing right now, do they deserve the amount of like how hard I'm going at them? Or is each individual thing that I'm criticizing them for, is it like really a terrible thing in the grand scheme of things? And you can still criticize people for small things. It's just if you're going to criticize someone for a small thing, you need to be clear that it is a small thing in your criticism, rather than saying like this tiny joke that someone made is like proof that they're a misogynist. It's like it's one of those things where it could be, there might be a subtle, because misogyny exists on levels. Obviously, you have like people who are super misogynistic, slightly misogynistic. So for example, if you see someone making like a joke about like beef curtains or something, you could say like, that's a slightly misogynistic joke. That's what I would say, like a little bit misogynistic. But to say like, this person made this joke, so therefore he is a misogynist, it's like very disproportionate to what is actually happening,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I guess what would be my main piece of advice is just like in the future, always think about proportionality whenever you're coming into covering any topic.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I'd also add a couple of things. Is that like one, for the word weird, a lot of people use that word on the internet to mean a lot of things. Like when I call something weird, I'm talking about like, maybe your fucking armpit smell. When a lot of people use the word weird, and one thing I picked up from your videos is it sounds like you're trying to say like they're predatory. And so when you use the word weird, it can be a different indication to different people, almost like a dog whistle.
Okay.
So I'd be careful about using the word weird or how you use the word weird. Also, and I think we kind of already talked about it, but it's like there are people who are easier to dunk on. And so sometimes you feel like you can lean into them more, like Dream, very unlikable character. Try to be a little bit careful about going a little too hard on some people, even if they're easy to dunk on, especially with your audience. And then also the new one that everybody learns once people start criticizing them as well, I've been there too, is, try to engage with the golden rule a little bit, because you're going to generate an audience based on the way that you criticize people. And so if you generate an audience, people who are disproportionate in criticism, they're going to hit you with the same energy back when you make a mistake. And so you want to try to stake in a reasonable line of proportionate criticism, because when you do make a mistake, you want your audience to treat you with the same energy that you treat other people with. So when you make a mistake, it's not like this huge devastating feeling thing that's happening in your audience.
Okay.
Yeah, I think being really sensational with your criticism, like going really hard, can definitely build you an audience really fast, because there are a lot of people on the internet that want, they want the drama, they want the gossip. So if you go really hard against people, people are like, "Ooh, he's going really hard." But unfortunately, that has the downside that once you mess up, then you crash out. So I've learned over multiple years, the only reason that I've been able to actually sustain a career over multiple years is because I've tried to chill out and not be that way. And then you build an audience that sees that you are about nuance. And I know you said in your video you care about nuance. If you don't always go hard at every person, then people can come into your video not thinking, oh, Lewis is just going to attack whatever person he's talking about. Lewis is going to give like a nuanced, educated perspective on this person that takes everything into account.
Okay. Yeah, that I have no notes. That's great.
All right, cool. Hopefully it was a productive chat.
Yeah.
So I would have had more for you, but I didn't know we were gonna chat. But I think
don't worry about it. I mean,
yeah,
like I said, I've done a lot of interviews in the past few days, so I've heard it all, and I don't know. I think that a lot of what's going on with me, I say I deserve it, and I do, but like, you're right. Because I blow stuff out of proportion, things will get blown out of proportion at me. It makes sense. I kind of wrote it that way, you know?
Well, and just to be honest, like people on the internet are very mean. A lot of these other commentary creators are looking for you to have your downfall so that they can come in and be mean to you. But
Right.
you've also been pretty mean to a lot of the people you've criticized as well.
Yeah.
So
also, one thing I would say is try. This is gonna sound weird. Sometimes it's not necessarily worth always responding or interacting, and the only reason I say that is because if you and a cat didn't come in to have a conversation in my stream, things probably wouldn't have blown up the way that they did.
Sure.
Obviously it went well overall, but sometimes you might want to take criticism with a grain of salt and sit on it for a little bit, and then like kind of let it sink into yourself instead of like trying to respond right away, then jumping right on top of it and going in unprepared and like just kind of going off the cuff, because sometimes it can just make it worse. Sometimes you just need time to think about what's been going on. That's something to consider as well.
And responding with a live stream when someone's made a video about you is very risky.
Yeah, you don't need to lecture me on that.
Yeah, if that's that's your content, like I would do something like that, because that's like my content. But your content's a little more thoughtful, curated video, so it might not be a good idea to do something like that.
Thoughtful is very charitable of you.
Well, my content's not thoughtful.
If someone
I just
makes
talk.
A video,
yeah.
It's not necessarily bad to do a live stream responding to someone, but I would recommend not doing a live stream unless you know that, like, oh, this is going to be really easy to disprove.
Maybe pre-watch
also,
it.
If you
I think that's my biggest mistake. Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't have a career like Papa where he reacts to things on the fly all the time, it definitely is a very difficult thing to react to something on the fly, especially because you could be like, making a point that the person then has already responded to like later in the video, but you don't know about it, so then you end up looking dumb. Like there's all sorts of pitfalls,
which is gonna happen to you if you do my type of content, and then you just get better at doing it. So if you really want to try to do like live stream stuff, but if you don't, then I would stick away from doing like the live stuff, because like I'm sure I've reacted to people criticizing me before, and I've said like the wrong thing. You know what I mean? But like, this is the kind of content I make, so I have to make that mistake. You don't necessarily have to make that mistake,
We all have to make mistakes, it's just about how you grow from them.
Yeah, and I'm sure you do this, but just be very clear, like in your videos, like, here is an allegation, don't necessarily, if an allegation is there, like take every single allegation as fact. I know one of the things I've struggled with is the whole like, believing victims as opposed to like things just being allegations, because it is a hard balancing act, because you want to like believe victims and you want to create a society where victims are comfortable coming forward, But unfortunately, if you spend time online, you do start to realize if I believe every single situation where someone claims to be a victim, it can end up biting you once more information comes out. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, it's one of those balancing acts of like, we want to create a space where victims feel comfortable while still, not taking everything as 100% fact all the time.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, especially because it can be counterintuitive when a victim comes forth and then they turn out to be a liar, then it makes everybody hate that person and then more victims don't want to come forward and it's counterintuitive and counterproductive. So yeah, I one of my biggest problems is definitely just believing victims because yeah, like you said, you want to believe a victim because it takes guts at minimum to come forth and talk about things you've been through. But yeah, you can definitely I definitely need to be more careful about that.
Yeah, I think you should just try to mentally separate the alleged victim from like the alleged perpetrator, and try
Yeah.
to not necessarily go in and onto the alleged perpetrator, but still have, you know, charity or concern for the alleged victim. You know, and try to
Yeah.
parse, like, separate those two things, because somebody could be coming forward with a very real thing, but you don't know if it's real when it comes to if somebody comes forward in general with something like, hey, this experience happened to me, they don't name somebody, you can obviously be empathetic and thoughtful to that person. Once they bring another specific person out of like, they did this to me, you want to try to separate the they and stick more to the person that's making the accusation, and be charitable and nice to them without necessarily going in on the person that they make an accusation against, because you don't really know if it's true yet. And so trying to separate those two things can be very beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, just put everybody under an equal lens, no matter what that lens is, basically.
Yeah, and if there's like a pattern where you see multiple people coming forward, that's usually like a pretty more of a clear indicator that something is going on.
It
But
can
I
be,
think
yeah.
something you've run into is like if there's multiple people coming forward or multiple things being said, but you're kind of elevating them all to like the same level, even if some of the things are really small. And I think that's what you ran into with Danky Jabbo, was taking small things and turning them into big things. Because I think it, I don't even know if you did have enough stuff to make a video about Danky Jabbo,
No, not
but I'm sure
really.
Danky Jabbo has made mistakes. We've all made mistakes, and he's not above criticism. But if you're going to criticize him, you just have to make sure that you're, you know, not saying, "Oh, you're a weirdo freak" because of very small things.
Yeah, the original reason I made that video, and I've talked about this in interviews, is because people wanted me to. I do live stream, but I play video games. I don't do this, right? And so on those live streams, there was people like asking me, "Hey, are you going to cover this? Can you cover this? Will you cover this?" Right? And so then I reached out. Well, I watched the live stream that Katie had made, reached out to her. She didn't give me any new information. And then from there, I made the video, right? And I basically kind of just felt like I don't want to use the word gullible to like remove blame from me, but I do feel as though I was very gullible.
I think
Yeah,
I
I
think the
think
both of
I
you had a similar perspective on the situation. Like, I think the both of you probably took very little bit of information and kind of spun a narrative. I don't think either of you manipulated the other one necessarily,
No,
because
I don't think so. I don't think
um,
if it happened, it was on purpose either.
yeah, I think that it's probably two young people that maybe mean well, but
Yeah,
it definitely spun itself out of control. Um, in my opinion, I'm a little older. I also, like, you guys grew up during COVID. I think it makes it a little difficult to be as socially aware about some
yeah,
topics as well. There's a lot of factors working against you, both young, successful content creators. Um, you didn't come into this field of content creation or commentary with like a ton of life experience, which doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to do it. It could just be difficult to parse through some more difficult situations sometimes.
okay,
yeah, and I'm sure you've realized this, but talking about something because people want you to talk about it can be a really big pitfall. Like
yeah,
you've got to choose things you want to talk about because you're passionate about them, because you think you have something interesting to say, because you think you have like something to say about that. If you go into things of like, my audience really wants me to talk about this thing, it can definitely set you into a pitfall of like, okay, my audience really wants me to talk about this. My audience is saying this is really bad, so that means I need to also say that it's really bad. And then once you
Yeah.
go along with what the mob is telling you to do, you see how that can set yourself up for failure. So just try
Right.
to ignore the mob.
I'm not blaming my
Yeah,
audience at all.
I'm not saying you are blaming the audience. I'm just saying
I think Ryan's just talking about you want to be careful not to get too audience captured. And,
yeah, absolutely. I understand. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I definitely fell for a lot of like just moves that a lot of people have probably made before, but I haven't seen it, so I didn't know the lesson yet. So like you said, I wasn't a very social kid at all. No. So it only makes sense that you can probably parse that out. But I haven't really been in situations where I can understand how to interact with some different types of people that I don't know, like different personality types and whatnot. So it only makes sense that when people tell me, hey, this is how you're supposed to feel, I can fall for that. And I shouldn't do that at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a formative experience. Everybody you've talked to probably has done some dumb shit as a content creator too. I've been there. Okay. Tom's been there. You know, it's not like you're the first person.
I've been there, yeah. 100%.
Yeah, you're not the first person that has a controversy and you've done some dumbass shit. Like it's something everybody's done. It's just more about learning from it. So don't castrate yourself because of this whole thing going on.
Okay.
Honestly, what you're going through, pretty much every single male leftist creator has gone through. Like it's not just something you're dealing with. This is a thing across the board that like breadtube dudes are getting raked over the coals for right now. But I think what I really appreciate is that you are trying to reach out and trying to figure out how to avoid these types of things in the future, because a lot of the other breadtube dudes have just like put their head down and refused to take any accountability for the mistakes that they made. And I think that's what sets someone apart, is if they are willing to hear that criticism and then learn and grow. But also take all criticism with a grain of salt. Don't just, now that you're in hot water, listen to everything Turkey Tom says, because I don't agree with everything Turkey Tom says.
I don't either. Not at all. No. I even disagreed with him publicly on that stream. I agree. Like I said, one of my main problems is that I was, again, gullible. Not because somebody was taking advantage of me or anything, but I just went with things that people said as though they are fact. And I've done that before, and it's been a problem before. I just didn't know it until now because, again, like Papa said, I didn't really have people criticizing me until very recently. At least not on a scale that I could recognize, right? So now that I'm seeing it, it's definitely a huge, and I like the reason I'm trying to talk to people is so that I can see these things, because I'm not gonna be able to parse through all of this criticism by myself. It's gonna be so much easier to talk to people, and that's why I'm doing it, you know? So yeah, thanks guys.
Yeah, no problem.
I wish the best for you. I want good dudes who are calling out bad behavior, but we've got to be really careful, because there's a lot of people out there who, want to see us fail.
Well, it's not that. I feel like the word is responsible. I need to be responsible.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. So yeah, man, I would do your thing. Take it easy. Don't stress yourself out too much. Be productive in your thoughts. Hopefully you have somebody in your real world that can ground you, like my wife does for me. Yeah. Make it a little easier to have a good perspective on these things, and you'll be fine. Give it a month or two. Nobody's gonna give a fuck anymore. I would just keep your head down for a little bit and then climb through it. Everybody has ups and downs. So even if you have a temporary view drop, don't think that that's the end of you. If anything, sometimes that's when I've had my best thoughts come, when I have temporary view drops, and where I end up
when
expanding.
You take a break,
yeah, not even necessarily take a break. When I'm in my lowest points, it's fuck, I got to get back into a good spot. What should I do? That's why I started investing so much time and energy and effort into TikTok, which has been very viewership lucrative, but also financially lucrative, so
yeah. I mean, I don't mean to be that guy, but I don't really do this because it's financially lucrative. I even though it's shallow and it's people see it as egotistical, I do really like when my videos help people. And I know that's not some amazing thought process. Everybody wants that, but that is truly why I like doing this. I made some videos where people will respond afterwards and say like that I helped them, and that's why I want to make the video. And the videos I made only hurt people, and that is what really gets to me. So that's why I'm reaching out to people so that I can help people.
I've gotten like feedback to people like, oh, you've helped me a lot here too. Just keep in mind that like sometimes doesn't always mean that like you're going in the right direction. Like people like Fresh and Fit get feedback that somebody saved their life. Like, you know what I mean? That they've saved something. You know, so
I mean,
like
the people I make videos about usually. Like okay. not. Yeah. You got anything else for me?
I'm all set, man. I'm fucking dying over here, coughing my fucking ass off.
Yeah, you might need to get off for the day.
I got to make more content for fucking TikTok.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, man, that's all I have. I don't know about Ryan.
All right.
Nope, that's about all I have. I agree with what Papa was saying, and I also genuinely care about people and genuinely want to help people, and I think that also can be a pitfall of like, I care so much, so I'm gonna go in guns blazing to try to protect this person that I really care about. But unfortunately, as you've seen, that can blow up in your face if you're not careful. So you just, every step of the way, you got to think 2 steps in advance. You got to think, how are people going to respond to what I'm saying right now? You've got to think, what is the evidence here? You've got to think like it's a lot goes into it. Unfortunately, it's not just as simple as who's the person who's being wronged, and I need to go in guns blazing and protect them. You know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go get a cough drop and then do some fucking short reaction.
All right.
But I appreciate the chat, man. I appreciate you stopping by. You too, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
Yeah,
it's
good talking.
All right.
It's surreal to talk to you, honestly. I wish it wasn't in this case.
I'm just some dude. I just want to see you succeed, man.
All right, thank you.
All right, guys. Take care. Peace.
All right, see ya.
All right. Let me turn my thing back on. I just got to get a fucking cough drop. I got to get a fucking cough drop, guys.